Hello, I'm Michael Laufer, and I'm going to be going over my first lab assignment for CSE410. So, I was kind of enamored by shaders in general and how do things look cool in games. So that's kind of where I spent the majority of my efforts for the first lab assignment, since it was kind of more open-ended. I thought it'd be cool to do some cool stuff. So the first shader I worked on is actually this water shader that I'm kind of showing off right now. Um, in a previous take, I did actually make some changes, which I'm not too happy with. So I'm going to revert it back to kind of the way I had it. So while I'm here, I'm going to show off kind of what I did. I kind of worked with the blueprint system that we kind of briefly touched upon in class, where I'm having this kind of absorption coefficient. I can speak English, barely, into a single layer water material. So that's actually what this material is. And kind of similar to real life, where you have water is blue because it absorbs the red and green light and reflects the blue wavelengths or whatever, right? I'm not a science guy either, but that's why the water is blue. That's why sky is blue. It's kind of similar kind of deal to this system, so I think that's pretty neat. So I can make this like a more absorb more of like a reddish orange than just like a red. And if I go back to this, you can see the watercolor has changed. So I'm actually going to revert that though. I am actually kind of taking that output and multiplying it, and I kind of made it into a parameter. So you could actually, oh, let me reapply this. Sweet. So right now it's kind of like almost like the same color all throughout, um, but I'm going to turn this up a bunch actually. And you can see that like fall off is like really great now. So like up here you have like a much like lighter tinge, and then it goes into like pure blue. But I kind of like, oop, wrong texture. I kind of like it sitting in the like the lower end, like somewhere around here. I think is pretty neat because you have like at the bottom it's like really nice and dark, and then up at the top like you could still like, especially with this island in the middle, you can see that nice gradient. So I think that's pretty neat. This is kind of just sitting on a plane though, so like I can move it up and down, and like you could see that effect too. Another thing I'm going to point out while it's actually up here is you can see waves. So that is actually going to be done by two normal maps that I'm like scrolling in two different directions. So one of the Y and one of the X, or I think it's like U and V also. And then that's I'm kind of just using a lerp. I had to Google what that meant. Uh, into the normal map here. So that's what's causing that wave. So that's what this parameter here is for. So if I increase this, like it kind of gets more pronounced. And then if I decrease it, it gets like softer waves, which is pretty cool. I'm a fan of that. Next shader, I kind of spoiled it a little bit by accidentally clicking on this earlier on, is a mirror shader that I kind of did. This one's not as complex in the actual material graph, where it's kind of just all the way up on the metallic and the specular and 0 on the roughness, and it's just white. I can tint it if I wanted to, like change this to whatever, but I'll show you that in a second. Other than that, like that's pretty normal. The hard part, and it's in here where I have this like little room with light in my little castle thing on this island. So this has the texture for the mirror, or the material I should call it really. Um, the problem comes in with where if you just relied on the metallic and the specular to do the kind of reflection, like it would do it, but just like very poorly. So I had to look into some like alternatives to how to actually get that to work properly. And I found this thing called the planar reflection. So I turned on this setting where it's like support global clip plane for planar reflections, and it's like an actual like item. So I'll press G to turn off game view, and then I actually have this kind of like, it's like a box where it's like a planar reflection item, and that's what's kind of, I don't know what it's doing per se, but that's what's allowing the actual mirror underneath it with the texture to kind of actually look nice. And I'll show you, like I'll spawn a player in, not to break the illusion, but this is, yeah, since it's just a plane, I could just like walk on top of it. I could have made it so you could just like walk through it, but once you pass through it, it wouldn't be like blue anymore because like, you're looking through it to get that texture. Anyway, so yeah, for now the door is kind of just like walk through, but you can see yourself in the mirror too, and I think that's pretty neat. And like it's not just like a re-rendering of the camera, it's like actually like taking the light and like bouncing it off and like putting it back into the camera that way rather than a because I know there's ways to kind of like re-render the camera, but I kind of liked the way this handled it. And that's pretty much my first assignment. Thank you.